Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Louise Huber begins now.
Good evening. First tonight, Tasmanian workers have taken their fight for fairer pay to Canberra, urging local senators to back a new bill that they believe will help alleviate the pain. The push comes as a new report paints a dire picture of stagnant wages in our island state.
Devonport's Peter Richards has been on the books as a casual forklift driver for 14 years.
I find it hard at times because wages aren't keeping up with inflation.
He's among a growing chorus of Tasmanian workers fed up at lagging wages.
We need these laws to pass so that we can attract and retain staff in my sector and give tiny Tasmanians the start they deserve in life.
Standing united with the state's dedicated union, pleading for political support for the Secure Jobs Better Pay Bill, which is currently before federal parliament. The laws would see a major pay rise and more flexibility for millions of Australians.
We've been in Canberra telling our stories and asking Tasmanian representatives to stand up for Tassie workers and pass the Secure Jobs Better Pay Bill in its entirety before Christmas.
A new union-driven report has laid bare how concerning the deal has become in the Apple Isle.
On average, we earn $200 a week less than other workers, and big companies think they can take advantage of our weak laws by paying Tasmanian workers less.
To catch up to the rest of the nation, Tasmania will need a much higher rate of wage growth after consistently delivering the lowest salaries for workers since 2012.
As a government, we support wherever possible the highest wages possible, so long as we have a responsible budget.
The legislation has passed the House of Representatives, but getting it through the Senate is the next hurdle.
Tasmanian workers arguably need a pay rise more than anyone else.
Grace Evans, 7 Tasmania News.
The state's biggest hospital has been forced to ramp up its COVID escalation plan to level 2 as it struggles to cope with extra demand. Our reporter Brianna Boylan has the details from the Royal Hobart Hospital. Brianna, what does this mean for ward operations?
Louise, it will see staff wearing enhanced PPE with N95 masks and eyewear now compulsory in all clinical and patient-facing settings. These changes came into effect as of 8 o'clock this morning. A spike in COVID-positive inpatients combined with staff absences has seen the facility enter level 2 of its COVID escalation plan. But visiting hours won't be impacted as a result of the outbreak, staying open between 2 and 7 p.m. daily. Community members are asked to stay away if they have symptoms, needing to comply with the health screening process upon entry. It comes as Tasmania navigates through its latest wave of the virus, with more than 2,200 cases recorded in the last week alone. 10 of those are in hospital. The Health Department is asking people to seriously consider whether they require hospital attendance in an effort to avoid putting further pressure on an already strained emergency department.
3 people charged with murdering David Jenkins at Georgetown last month have faced court. Patrick Kenneth Dolby entered a plea of not guilty. A preliminary proceedings hearing will occur next year. His co-accused Paul William Shaw and Luke Anthony Shaw did not enter pleas and will return to court in December. The government has released its draft 10-year plan for Tasmanian salmon, claiming it's a sustainable pathway. The industry agrees, but critics say the industry has won and that the report is too light on details.
A plan for the future of Tasmanian salmon.
A sustainable industry into the future, one that all Tasmanians can be proud of, one that is economically successful, environmentally responsible, socially beneficial and well managed.
An 18-page draft blueprint for the next 10 years out for consultation. The industry body calling it a positive first step in bringing together the shared vision of the industry, government and community. It approaches many of the concerns raised by communities, aspiring to sustainability, more transparency and higher environmental standards. But some say it's light on details about how to get there.
Completely insulting to communities and conservationists who for years have been raising issues.
You'll see the plan highlights the importance of transparency, accountability and growing a sustainable salmon industry.
A recent Upper House inquiry recommended moving all operations out of sheltered waterways. Critics of the industry say this plan doesn't go far enough to do that.
We would like to see an incentive, a real government incentive, to transition these companies from our waterways onto shore. It's quite possible.
Instead, only offering incentives to move further offshore.
What we have here is the Tasmanian government completely folding to the wishes of the salmon industry. It is really business as usual for them.
Public consultation will continue until January, with a final version released mid-next year. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
The latest EMRS polling of Tasmanian voters shows the status quo has been maintained. 42% of voters preferred the Liberals, up from 41%, while Labor's vote dropped slightly. 14% supported the Greens, while 16% supported others or independents. Jeremy Rockcliffe remains the favoured Premier by 12% of the vote. The Housing Minister has been asked to explain why a public housing tenant is being asked to pay the debts of others. Patricia Geard says she's been asked to pay the debt left by a former registered co-occupant, her daughter.
They did threaten me with eviction notice. They can come knocking on my door and gave me the paper.
How does that make you feel?
Heartbreaking that I was going to lose my house, everything in it, yeah.
It's her responsibility to pay her rent. Her rent shouldn't transfer across to another adult, regardless of the family relationship.
The Minister declined to comment on Ms Geard's personal situation and didn't answer if this is common policy. Today he toured a site of 15 new homes being constructed at Rokeby for older men experiencing homelessness.
It provides some support, and it's important that you consider different cohorts in terms of the need for housing.
The Board of Homes Tasmania has also been announced, with entrepreneur Michelle Adair to chair. The Health Union is continuing to voice its concerns over Southern Cross Care's plan to change its staffing model. HACSU, Southern Cross Care residents and their families banding together to save the specialist roles, including enrolled nurses and leisure, lifestyle and servery staff.
There isn't the staff to replace them, and we know that this is about corporate greed and cost cutting and not caring about residents.
The union is escalating action on the matter, with a rally at Yarrandu and a meeting with the Fair Work Commission in tomorrow's diary. Tasmania Police is urging motorists and pedestrians to take care on our roads after a man in his early 20s was hit by a car while crossing the road in Launceston last night.
This time of year, obviously, roads are getting busier, people are getting out and about, so just a reminder to both drivers and pedestrians to pay attention, slow down and make sure they're all acting in a safe manner.
Both the pedestrian and the female driver were taken to hospital in a stable condition. The state's peak education bodies have joined forces to call for urgent literacy and numeracy support in Tasmanian schools as results dwindle in the classroom. They're urging the state government to help grow in-class support ahead of industrial negotiations for the sector.
The results have shown that we are behind the rest of Australia and we're not catching them anytime soon. We cannot maintain the status quo. We need to actually have improvements.
Building those foundations at the primary level is crucial to ensure that our children are educated into high school.
Growing teacher assistance in every learning environment is priority as educators look to strike a fair and better pay deal. Sacred rock carvings belonging to the Tasmanian Aboriginal community have begun their long journey home after more than 60 years. The return of the Premingana petroglyphs has been called an example of reconciliation in action.
Returning to Aboriginal hands after more than half a century. Luamakuna, or rock carvings, finally on their way back to Premingana in the state's far northwest. Smoking ceremonies were held in Rosny and Launceston to cleanse the sacred artefacts of bad memories.
They're incredibly significant. They're the markings of our old people. They were created in that landscape, in that Miltina, for our people to see them in that landscape.
The carvings are a record of life in the region, with some dating back 15,000 years.
If you see them in the context of other carvings that were alongside them, you can see that they're part of the story.
Early last year, QV Mag and T-Mag announced they'd return the petroglyphs, but the journey here hasn't been a smooth one. The huge, heavy objects are also incredibly fragile, making transport across rugged country a challenge.
It's been a big exercise. We've had lots of people sitting around the table, lots of people offering their expertise.
The carvings will be welcomed home in a closed ceremony this weekend, but it's hoped visitors will soon make the trek to see the relics in the way they were always intended. Annie Green, 7 Tasmanian News.
A new inclusion campaign is inviting Tasmanian businesses to become more welcoming of people living with a disability. The initiative aims to support hospitality venues, shops and service providers to make positive change, with the first step to become more accessible.
Inspiring inclusivity in the community, New Horizons Tasmania has launched a new awareness campaign shining a light on disability.
Someone just sees me but doesn't see me as the customer.
Just kind of like to be treated like everybody else.
The You're Welcome campaign consists of 3 videos featuring 6 Launceston locals with varying disabilities speaking about their experiences when shopping and dining around the city.
It's amazing because it makes us feel like we've got a voice. It makes us be heard, it makes us feel part of the community.
20% of your customers that may come through your business that have got a disability and that may need some form of adaptation.
The biggest barrier individuals face is access.
They say they've got disabled access, but then you get there and there's 5 steps there, no ramp.
The tables too close together, not being able to get through, bad disabled toilets.
The online inclusivity initiative also provides businesses with simple tips to make small but positive change.
Just think about layout, ask a person in a wheelchair.
Having more workplaces with disability training.
Leaving a powerful message.
Just treat people the same.
McKenna Bailey, 7 Tasmania News.
And Hobart's Amy Medwin is returning to the A-League. She's signed up to Western United, which will play at North Hobart Oval against the Brisbane Roar on January 21. The Hobart Hurricanes are about to play their first Women's Big Bash final in 6 years. An unchanged squad has been named for the Eliminator against the Brisbane Heat in Adelaide. If the Hurricanes win, they'll go on to play the Strikers tomorrow night. And you can watch the game live on 7 Mate from 7 o'clock. And Launceston's Dominic Shaliro has been thrown into the AFLW's biggest stage. He'll boundary umpire the sold-out decider between the Lions and Demons in Brisbane.
Front row seat and get to run around, a little bit of fitness, and you get right involved with the footy as well.
This weekend's grand final will be the 10th game the 21-year-olds overseen this season. Launceston coach Mitch Thorpe will miss the first 4 games of next year's TSL season after failing to overturn his suspension following the grand final. Thorpe was slapped with a 1-game ban for hurling abuse at Kingborough forward Tyler Carter as players were leaving the field at half-time. But the suspension has snowballed, the 1-game ban doubling to 2 because it happened in a grand final. It also triggered a suspended 2-game sentence for another incident during the season, bringing the total ban to 4 games. Australia's top BMX rider has made her long-awaited return from injury in Launceston. Saya Sakakibara is in Tasmania to defend her national crown and inspire young riders watching on. As the nation's best BMX riders launched into the hectic half-a-minute course at St Leonard's, plenty of eyes were on the Olympian in their midst.
The first race is definitely the hardest and the most nerve-wracking.
Saya Sakakibara has ridden the long road back, recovering from a string of concussions stemming from the Tokyo Olympics. Today, she could finally make her return.
It makes me really happy that I was able to do that treatment properly, so I can kind of have confidence to say I have done the work and now I can trust myself on the bike.
Naturally, the 23-year-old was head and shoulders above the field in qualifying. Her goal over the coming days is to defend her national titles, a status she gets to wear on her sleeve, all while providing inspiration to local juniors on the course.
Half of the reason why I'm here, just to connect with these younger kids and parents and everyone who love BMX as much as I do.
It means a lot to the kids to see this calibre of riders in the state that wouldn't have been here for the last 30 years.
150 Tasmanians are among the 1,000+ riders competing this week, following years preparing for the event.
Only up until a couple of years ago, the track was clay. Now it's turned into a slick surface.
And fit for a slick return to racing for the sports stars. One of the Tour of Tasmania's bulletproof records remains intact. Cam Ivory winning his 4th prologue in a row up the steep and winding Brisbane Street West in Launceston. The champion climber is a specialist on the introductory stage.
It suits my style, coming from a mountain bike background. You need to be punchy, have the skills to corner well, and just over a minute long. It's perfect.
Popping the champagne, Ivory savoured the moment with the yellow jersey, but he expects to give it away tomorrow when the first distance stage gets underway from Georgetown to Grindelwald.
Good evening. Hobart and Burnie 19 degrees today. Launceston and Friendly Beach is our warmest, 21, and Devonport 20. Just below or near average the temperatures today. St Helens and Bushy Park 19. Low Head and Bass Strait Island 17. Strawn and Grove 16 degrees. Lyawini a top of 11. Cloudy conditions today. Low cloud over the west. Clearer the more you look towards the east. Mid to high cloud moved over the middle of the country today. A few isolated storms over the tropics and central and southern parts of WA. Tomorrow, a slow-moving high moves over western Victoria, a trough over the far northwest of Australia. The winds west to southwesterly at 15 to 25 knots, 30-knot westerlies over the north and south. Strong wind warning, that's from Stanley to St Helens Point and also from Wineglass Bay to Low Rocky Point. Hobart tomorrow 20 and partly cloudy. Cloudy for Cygnet, 19 the top and 20 for New Norfolk. Launceston, a maximum of 24 degrees and partly cloudy. 21 the high for Devonport and Campbelltown. Looking to Burnie and partly cloudy, 17 degrees, 16 for Strawn, a shower or two easing, cloudy for Smithton, a top of 18. 19 the high for St Helens with a shower or two, partly cloudy for Swansea, 21 and 21 the top for Fingal with a shower there. There's the UV, a very high 9 for tomorrow. On Friday, partly cloudy over the north and northwest, a few showers over the east and south. Showers developing on Saturday, increasing over the north and west in the evening. And on Sunday, showers over most regions with northwesterly winds. Partly cloudy in Perth and Melbourne tomorrow, mostly sunny weather for Adelaide, Canberra and Sydney, fine and 30 in Brisbane. Some cloud over Hobart, 15 at the moment, sun still shining in Launceston, 17, and right now it's 15 in Devonport. And Louise, Andrew Vozar, our menswear fashion consultant here at the station, has added the touch of the pocket handkerchief tonight. What are your thoughts?
I actually think you look pretty good tonight for once. Thanks for that, Mel. That's all your news for now. We'll be back later with updates. Thank you for joining us. Good night.